Our American Lands presents National Security Series Energy Part 2. Why this and why now? Energy is national security. Everyone knows it. The question is, can the USA afford to shut down systems that have worked with nearly flawless reliability for over 125 years in favor of experimental energy systems that have zero track record, all because one small group of experts, quote unquote, said so? What started this push to renewable energy and sustainable development? Central bank digital currency, own nothing and be happy, clean energy, net zero, new world order, and 15-minute cities. The Earth Summit 1992. Agenda 21.
And it's called Agenda 21 Sustainable Development, and it is being orchestrated outside or through the United Nations, and it is a stalking horse, a Trojan horse for world fascism, as I'm going to go through and explain. Agenda 21 was agreed at the 1992 Earth Summit in Brazil, which was headed by this guy, Maurice Strong, one of the gang big time, a mate of Al Gore, and he said, Maurice Strong, this billionaire oil man, etc., he said, isn't the only hope for the planet that the industrialized civilizations collapse? Isn't it our responsibility to bring this about? Anyway, this is the wish list in documents for Agenda 21 operating through the United Nations. An end to national sovereignty, all justified by saving the world, by the way. An end to national sovereignty, state planning and management of all land resources, ecosystems, deserts, forests, mountains, oceans, and fresh water, agriculture, rural development, biotechnology, and ensuring equity equals slavery. The state is to define the role of business and financial resources, abolition of private property, it's not sustainable, they say. Here we go again, how many times has this come up? Restructuring the family unit, children to be raised by the state, people told, this is what Aldous Huxley said in Brave New World, people told what their job will be, major restrictions on movement, creation of human settlement zones, I'll get to them in a minute, mass resettlement as people are forced to vacate land where they live for reasons I'm coming to, dumbing down education achieved a long time ago, mass global depopulation in pursuit of all of the above. And what they're doing to hide it is they're setting Agenda 21 organizations up in all local communities, all over the world, America, Britain, all over the place, and they're giving the impression that each of these is basically an independent local community initiative, when it's all being orchestrated through this organization, through the United Nations, called Local Governments for Sustainability.
Oh my, that is dystopian crazy stuff right there. But how come you never heard about Agenda 21 in the years after the Earth Summit of 1992? While the UN plan was to take over the world, the players knew that simply announcing a global takeover would have met harsh resistance, so they devised a plan that would strike fear into even highly educated folks and give children epic nightmares. But what they needed had to be big, and with cooperation of all 178 nations that signed on to Agenda 21, using the media to claim scientific consensus and declare that the data was irrefutable, they formulated a plan. The plan now brought in more players called stakeholders: the World Economic Forum, the World Health Organization, multinational corporations, giant banking and investment firms, people at the highest levels of government. But they needed a horror movie villain to make the masses cower and fall into line. What could do that? A virus that had no cure? No. Then in 2005, the UN found their boogeyman. It was never about the environment. It was always about fear and control. Back in 2006, Al Gore used this chart to scare you. The CO2 spike, the hockey stick lie.
Climate change is the existential threat to our planet.
Millennials and people and Gen Z and all these folks that come after us are looking up, and we're like, the world is going to end in 12 years if we don't address climate change. And your biggest issue is your biggest issue is how are we going to pay for it?
Now here comes the truth about climate change.
Before climate science became politicized, these were called climate optima, and they were called climate optima for a very good reason. Humanity flourished and prospered, and food was abundant. During the last period, it was called the medieval warm period that went from about the year 850 to 1250. It was called the High Middle Ages. At the time of Magna Carta, great cathedrals were built. People thrived and prospered. And it started going bad when it started getting cold. The previous warming period before that was called the Roman warm period. It was the time of Christ. It correlated to the Iron Age. Again, the time of great civilizations and empires that rose up. We know it was much warmer because the Romans were growing citrus in the north of England near Hadrian's Wall. Well, you can't do that today. The first great civilizations grew up during a time called the Minoan warm period. It was known as the Bronze Age. And again, life was good. All these great civilizations prospered and thrived, the Hittites, the Assyrians, the Babylonians. And we know it was much warmer because they were growing a crop called millet in Scandinavia. Well, that crop can only be grown in subtropical areas today. So we know it had to have been a lot warmer. And again, it's completely opposite of what we're being told. We're being told if we go to those temperatures like they experienced during the Minoan, the Roman, and the medieval warm period, it will be horrific. History doesn't tell us that. We need to go back and take a look at what happened in human history to find that these previous warm periods were hugely beneficial. We should celebrate the warming, celebrate the increasing carbon dioxide in our atmosphere. Again, by almost every metric we look at, we see benefits to Earth's ecosystems and to the human condition.
So I did as the government asked, and I looked at the science when it came to climate change, and this is what I found. According to government figures, Australia is producing 499 million metric tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. But what I also found is that one mature tree will absorb 48 pounds or 21.77 kilograms of carbon dioxide per year. And Australia currently has 24 billion standard-sized trees, absorbing 453 million metric tonnes of carbon dioxide per year. And that's just trees. Doesn't include any other plant life, and particularly doesn't include mangroves. And mangroves will absorb 50 times more carbon dioxide per year than a standard-sized tree. So why is the government hell-bent on cutting down trees in order to install solar farms when it seems quite obvious from the science that nature has already provided the solution to the problem?
If you think this saves the Earth, and this kills Mother Earth, it might be time for a intervention. The intervention is not about believing that wind and solar power systems will save the planet. Rather, it is about federal subsidy money for utilities, land trusts, governments, and corporations ultimately taking control of as much land as possible. Do you think they really care about wind and solar as a viable plan for the future? The sovereignty of every country that buys into the renewable scam becomes the real national security threat. It's still a free country. Go ahead and buy an EV, but don't tell others what to buy. Want solar on your own home? Fine, pay for it yourself. This is national security. Our farmers, ranchers, past, present, and future need this God-given land. Our existence depends on it.
Sidney Sweeney, Hasbury, Cairns.
Thanks for watching. Please like and share. Stay tuned for part 3.